Okay, my beautiful friends, we have to talk seriously. The news is pretty much everywhere, but I want to put a perspective on what's going on here. And it's no surprise to you if you follow this blog whatsoever. You knew it was coming, and here it is. All right, so let's start off with, I guess, the date, because I'm getting kind of excited about this. It's Thursday, October 24th, 2019. People, the charade just got larger. And I want to read this to you. Again, I don't want it to be my words. This is an announcement from the New York Fed, which came out yesterday. It is increasing its temporary overnight repo operations to, get ready, at least 120 billion a day from the current 75 billion at least. In addition to that, they're going to be increasing their, here we go, hold on. In addition to the repo increase, term repo operations are rising to at least 45 billion from the current 35 billion. This is part of what I've been explaining to you, that this is just the beginning of the scheme that we're seeing right now, and still not a single syllable, not a single word from the President of the United States, and you won't hear it at all. Radio silence, that should tell you something. The silence is deafening. Now let's back up a minute more. This whole temporary quantitative easing, stimulus, capital injections into the market, capital injections into the banks. This was supposed to be temporary and end on the 10th of this month. Then they extended it to the 8th of next month. Then they put it off till January. This is the second time they've actually increased the size of these purchases. And I can promise you, this is permanent. I said to all of you, and you can attest to this if you follow my blog, the day that this was announced, I explained to you this was just the beginning, and it was not going to be temporary. It was going to be perpetual. In fact, that was the title of the video I think I did at the time. This is again nothing what you're seeing here. These increases in purchases, this repo scam, just the beginning. We are on the threshold of something that has not even been witnessed before. And again, the silence is deafening. If this were to get out, if the President of the United States were to announce what the Federal Reserve is doing right now, it would rattle the confidence. Most people have no idea what's going on with regard to the Federal Reserve, the quantitative easing, the fiscal stimulus, the recapitalization of the banks. People don't know because they believe the lie. They believe the narrative. Everything is great. But look, what does this come down to? It's so simple to understand. We know this, you and me. If you follow this blog, it could not be more clear. The system, because it's debt-based, demands that more capital be printed out of thin air, added to a digital screen in epic sums. Without this mechanism, we get a lockup of the entire system and an absolute global meltdown, unlike anything we've ever seen before. The fact that the Federal Reserve is in here doing this right now and attempting, I think, at least to keep it off of the headlines, because again, you have to understand, the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government, both private entities, this goes back to what I was just saying. The President can't say it. He can't let people know this, what's going on, because it will rattle confidence. The market runs off of confidence. Henceforth, the narrative that everything is great. Henceforth, the narrative that this is booming while everything is grinding to a halt here. Now, without the capital injections into the market like we're seeing now, we will get a credit freeze. And the yield curve right now would be so inverted. Understand, the reason why this repo scam is being increased is to keep the short end of the curve pinned down and to keep the illusion real that the yield curve has a normal slope. No, it's not true whatsoever. If you were to strip out what the Federal Reserve is doing right now, we would have probably the greatest inverted yield curve that we have ever seen in history. And the only reason why the Fed is in here again, well, there are several reasons. Number one is because we're going to face they're facing right now a liquidity crisis. Cash must be injected into the market. It must be borrowed into existence in greater and greater amounts. Without doing this, everything grinds to a halt. Period. The end. No ATMs working, no cash in the bank, no transactions, nothing. Zero. We go back to Mad Max. So sincerely, this is why this is going on right now. And this is why the president, again, is not mentioning it. Because if he starts being asked questions about what the Fed is doing, he's going to have to spin this to a very high order. He knows why this is going on right now. He understands that a credit freeze, we're on the threshold of it. And without the Fed continuing to increase what they're doing, that's it. Party over. So there's a lot of effort going into keeping this propped up, at least to the election. And then we'll see what happens. But that's what's really going on here. People, look, it doesn't matter, again, who wins the election. And if it were one of the Democratic hopefuls, they will have no choice but to keep this scam going because it will lock up on a global level. I mean, I want you to think about what I am talking about. If we end up in another situation where there is a credit freeze, again, keep in mind, the system must have more capital injected into it every single day. If it doesn't, we lock up, credit freeze, business activity stops around the world as the US dollar is still the reserve currency. So if you think for a moment, and I said this in a recent video, that one of these Democratic hopefuls are going to fix the situation, you're stuck in the hope, can't end. You have to understand that the world central banks have got every angle figured out through the banks that run them. And they cannot be beaten. They cannot be overrun, period. And their plan is very simple, to put forth a new system after the absolute extermination of the middle class is complete. Part of this is inflating the stock market bubble on the back of the debt bubble. And again, once this drops, because the private entity, which is the government, and the Federal Reserve, two private entities whose goal is to inflate bubbles and then deflate them rapidly to transfer the wealth over. Once that's complete, a new system will be put in place. And again, it does not matter. Break out of the delusion that this world is run by presidents, kings, queens, monarchs, or dictators. It's not. It's run by the banks. Once you get that through your freaking head and stop dreaming about the two-party system and the swinging back and forth to trying to keep you off balance, divide and conquer, once you do that, you'll understand that what I've been explaining to you since time immemorial are facts across the board. Until that time, you are lost. And there are still people who are locked into that. And they're following along just like they're supposed to. They have to comply. It's so simple, really, to understand this. This is why I'm able to call these things before they happen. I explained to you this was going to happen. I've been telling you, this is just the beginning. And this, what we're seeing, this is not the end. Oh, no. There's going to be a lot more because, again, the system demands more liquidity every day. We are facing a liquidity crisis. We are on the threshold of another credit freeze. This is why we're seeing this now. In an environment where we have a bubble in debt unlike anything we've ever seen, they've managed to reinflate a housing bubble, reinflate a stock market bubble while the U.S. economy continues to free fall. You can only imagine when all of this just comes together, the devastation that this is going to leave in its wake. And again, that's being done by design to exterminate the middle class. Anyway, with that said, this guy does love you a lot. Please share this video, get it out there. Let people know what's going on, and maybe, although it won't happen, we'll hear something from the president about what the Fed is doing. He can't tell you. It has to be kept secret. It's incredible. It really is. The environment of lies, fakery, is off the Richter scale. This is communism and fascism to the highest order. I'm out of here. Love you all. See you at the end of the day.